You hate ads? I hate ads. You know what I like? Patreon.com/inkdependence keeps this blog ad-free. Hello folks, welcome to Ink Dependence. I'm Mike, and today we have a box of ink from Papier Plume, New Orleans. This is the special ink for the Chicago Pen Show in 2021 that is going on this weekend. I am not going to be there, but they sent me a bottle of the ink to try out. Stuff that back in there. As usual, brown cardboard box, no markings. I will usually put either a label maker label on there, or I'll just write on there what the color of the ink is so that I can pick it out of my ink cabinet reliably. But the bottles themselves are very nice. This one is called Cloud Gate, and as usual, they have the wax-dipped cap, which I think is classy, wax seal on top, Papier Plume, Shimmer fountain pen ink. This is their very first shimmer as far as I'm aware, and they've based it off Cloud Gate, which is the bean in Chicago. See there, 2021 Chicago Pen Show. Shake well, 30 mils as usual. And these will be a little pricier than their usual inks. These will go for $15, which is still not bad. $15 for 30 mils seems pretty good. Has a lot of gold shimmer in here. In fact, a whole lot of gold shimmer actually. You can see it sparkling there through the glass. This ink is worth taking a look at for sure, so let's do that. Here it is on my usual Rhodia 80 grams per square meter paper, and you can see that this ink is sort of a well, it's very pale actually, and I'm not sure exactly what color it is. It's kind of a gray, kind of a gray blue, I'm gonna say. You see little swatches or little mixtures of everything else in there, but also a whole bunch of shimmer. This ink has a lot of shimmer going on. If I had to describe the flow, and I do, I would say that the flow is a bit on the thin side. A lot of the Papier Plumes are a little bit on the thin side, and they're usually a little bit undersaturated. That's just kind of their style, and that holds true here as well. And I think it works pretty well with this ink because you're not really here for the color as much as you are for the shimmer and that pop that it gives. And you can see here, even in my lights, which are reasonably diffuse, you do get that pop of shimmer in lots of places, although, interestingly, not all the places. So you can go a little while without having much shimmer. So like this line right here has just like a little bit of shimmer here and there in it, but there are some words that just don't have any shimmer at all. So one of those interesting things about shimmer inks is that sometimes, like where it says comments right here, like basically no shimmer in the comments, but then this line, holy smokes, all shimmer. So oops, all shimmer is what you get sometimes. I've had it in this pen, which is a TWSBI Eco. This is, I think, called Cement, is what this one's called. Is that a concrete? Pretty sure it's cement, but I really liked this gray color and had to have it, and we've got a gray ink with shimmer, and that calls for this gray Eco. For whatever reason, TWSBI Ecos are extremely good at shimmer inks. I don't really know what it is, but they're very good at it. So you can see the shimmer that lays against the inside of the barrel there. I've swished it around a little bit and made some of that gold get into the ink. You can see it here on the feed. You can see it well on the bottom of the feed in through this section. That's totally fine. It's supposed to be there. And you can see it in these little sort of grooves. Now, when I want to clean this out, I'm going to have to take this whole thing apart, and I can just flush it straight through. So you give you a little wrench, and you can take this whole piston mechanism out. You can take the nib and feed out. I can just blast water through this thing as much as I need to get that shimmer to dislodge, which is a really nice thing about TWSBI pens that you can use them for shimmer. A, they write well with them, and B, you can clean them out very well. This is a medium nib, which is totally fine. Even their fine nibs are good with shimmer inks for some reason. Don't know what it is, but they're very good for that. Okay. Now, I've done a lot with this ink because I wanted to give it a thorough try, and I was, let me tell you a story, ready to be like, I don't like this ink, it's not very good, and I'll show you why. I opened up my one of my Fabriano Equoqua notebooks. I really like these. They're glue bound, they open flat, all that sort of thing, and I was writing with it. I was just copying out some of a book about famous or should be more famous female philosophers throughout history. And I was like, well, let me just copy some stuff because that seems fun, and I want to try this ink out. And I didn't have it for very long, so I wrote this much, and then it absolutely stopped. And I put a major blockage here. That's in a different ink, but right here it just went. Nope, I'm not writing anymore. I couldn't get it to write by. Sometimes if you work the piston, you can force ink through the feed a little bit, and that'll clear out if you have like a dam built up of shimmer in there or something. But nope, that didn't work. I had to actually get a shim, which is like a very thin piece of brass, and like run it through the nib slit to get that cleared. And once I did, it wrote pretty well. You can see there's a whole lot of shimmer here. I was to really knock that shimmer loose, and it was really coming out. And then it kind of like, the shimmer diminishes as we go, and then at the bottom of the page, so like halfway through and bottom of the page, it just stopped. Like all of a sudden, it was like, nope, I'm done, and it totally died there, and I had to shim it again, so I just stopped. Now, what I noticed was, and I was like, oh man, that's really a bummer because I think this ink looks cool, and I like the gold shimmer. But what I noticed was there are a couple of things that you should know about ecos, and that is sometimes they will drip ink out of the front of the nib, and that's no good, but it's easy to fix. You need to take the nib and feed and just like grab it here and just push it back. It should be seated all the way back into that clear section right here like it is there. If there's any gap here, then that will be an air leak and it will drip on you. Now, the thing that I had going on was that I had this seated just fine, but my nib was actually not seated correctly. It wasn't pushed back far enough. You should be able to just barely make out the M. You can see it right there, just over the lip. And mine was out a little bit further, a millimeter or so, and I could tell back here looking at the back of this feed that it just wasn't quite seated. And so I went like that, and it pushed in. Now, when I did that, I was like, oh man, that's probably going to affect it. So when I did that, I wrote this whole other page. I just rewrote that page of text, and I didn't have a single hard start or stutter or stoppage or blockage or any of that. Everything worked out perfectly fine. And so really the problem was not the ink, it was me and my pen. I had made my pen so it didn't work very well. And so it's kind of actually surprising that it got two halves of a page before it blocked up again. So once I fixed that, yeah, no problems with it writing. It was totally fine. Now, you'll also notice on here that there's not a lot of shimmer going on. Like you can see some here and there. Popularity is very shimmery. Taught by Hypatia right here, very shimmery. As, very shimmery. But there's a lot of spaces in here that just really don't have any shimmer at all. So philosophy, shimmery. Which? Nothing. Which was kind of weird. I think it must have something to do with this paper because I did this not long afterwards, and you can see there's shimmer all over the place. So I think it probably has to do with the paper. But always remember that pen, paper, and ink are a triumvirate, and you need to have all three working correctly in order to have your pen and your ink and such work well. So it works better on this paper than it does on that paper for whatever reason. I don't know what it is, but for whatever reason, that Fabriano paper is just eating all the shimmer from this ink. So now that I had that figured out, I was like, well, let's try some copy paper. So I did. Thusly, lots and lots of shimmer here. You can really see it. You can really see it popping out on a bunch of those words, especially at the beginning. So this part right here, very shimmery. This part here, not so shimmery. Interesting how that comes and goes. Maybe we need a slightly finer shimmer. Maybe that's just kind of how it was going. I don't know, but it works pretty well on here. I don't really see any feathers at all, which sometimes you will get from a thin ink. Maybe a little bit here on the word on the Y, maybe if I was being extremely picky. And actually pretty good performance in terms of bleed on this copy paper. Remember, this is 20 pound, 30% recycled copy paper, and it is essentially like the worst paper you're going to get in your office. It's not good at all for most pens, including fountain pens. So that little bit of bleed and that little tiny bit of feather is that counts as good performance on that paper. All right. So let's do a bit of a water test on here. I'm not expecting much. We'll look at some chromatography. We'll look at it on a couple of other papers, other more different papers, and then we'll look at some complementary inks or some inks that are like a little bit like it. Comparables. That's the comps I was thinking of. Okay, get some water on there. That's probably too much water, but whatever. It'll be totally fine. I'm not really expecting any good water performance here. One never knows. It's looking pretty okay right now, actually. You can see it's getting a little bit lighter, but I don't want to get it all over my text. Let's go like this. Soak it up. Do some blotting. Actually, it turned out okay. I'm really surprised that this this performed as well as it did. These are still totally readable. I didn't really get any. I mean, I wasn't expecting to be able to see any on my paper towel just because it's such a light ink in general. But yeah, no problem there. That's actually pretty good. I'm really surprised, and let me show you why. Here's the chromatography. That's what you get from this ink on my chromatography strip, and it is extremely light. You get this gray down here, and I shouldn't be surprised, I guess, that it had a little bit of water resistance given that there's actually gray here, and then other stuff moved. So gray band here, purple band, nothing, and then a very light blue band. So really interesting set of colors going on here. Gray, purple, and very light blue, and also a band of nothing. You don't usually get a band of nothing, but good color separation. And of course, all the shimmers stay down here. It doesn't move through the paper because, you know, it's how chromatography works. It's not glitterography. All right, so we've got here the Tomoe River Ink Journal. This is one of my standards, one of my go-tos. And there it is. TWSBI Cement Medium Papier Plume Cloud Gate, aka the Bean. Fair amount of shimmer in there, not a huge amount, but little accents of shimmer, which I think is pretty good. I like it when a shimmer ink does that. Then here we have wheat straw paper. This is my Inky Fingers currently inked notebook, and it is right there. Not a whole lot of shimmer here aside from the medium and the TWSBI, and a little bit here in the Papier of Papier Plume. But here in the scribble, very small amounts of shimmer, which is, I think that's totally fine. And it looks I think best on this paper. This is really good. And also the Rhodia. It turned out really well on Rhodia for some reason. Yeah, really good. Anyway, so there you go. Paper really matters with an ink like this. Now, lastly, let's take a look at some inks that are maybe similar. This is the Tsubame Note ink card. You can see here, it is extremely light over here. And then we have this like sort of dense pocket here of both ink and shimmer where it kind of pooled because it has warped this a little bit. I think it looks okay on this paper, but I don't like it as much as I do on some of the others, just because of how coated the paper is and how it goes extremely light where it doesn't pool. But you get a good contrast there between the shimmer and the not so shimmery. Then here it is on a Colodex card, my usual go-to for these. I'm not sure exactly what these, sometimes you get these little like areas where just ink won't pool. I don't know, maybe I have my finger there or something and I got some like hand oils on it and it repelled it, but you get very, very light there and then darker up here. But you can see in the lighter bits up here, this was all written with that TWSBI Eco, that it's much lighter where you're writing with it with a pen. Now, if you use a dip pen or some such thing, this will be better because you'll have more ink in general falling off the dip pen glass nib situation than you do from a regular fountain pen. But interesting depth of color there. All right, so I only had a few inks to compare this to because there aren't that many gray shimmers out there, frankly. So here's the first one, which is Diamine Night Sky, which is a shimmer-tastic ink that I haven't used in a long time. It's much darker than Papier Plume's Cloud Gate, and it rocks a silver shimmer. So it's silver and gray, but a much darker character of ink and a different color of shimmer. Then you have Diamine Snowstorm, which is, I think, one of the better ones from this ink vent. I think this is a real good-looking ink. This is a gray, which is a bit darker in general than Cloud Gate. You can see next to each other. But it has a silvery blue shimmer in it, which I think is pretty darn cool. So it's a very different sort of look. Gives you that sort of snowstorm look instead of, I don't know, gold storm. You want to be caught outside in a gold storm. And then there is, of course, a gray ink that has been around for a while that rocks a gold shimmer, and that is Jacques Herbin 1670 Stormy Seas. I have only just done this ink swatch. You can see it's still bowed out. It hasn't been flattened yet, but I just did this because somehow I didn't have an ink card for this. I don't know why. And I thought this was going to be closer, but Stormy Seas is such a dark gray that it's basically a black. It is extremely dark. It does have a whole lot of glitter content and that sort of thing. So while they have the same kind of idea, grays with a lot of gold shimmer, they are extremely different inks. You're not going to mistake these for one another at all. So I mean, if you just look at the writing bits here, it is not even close. Both use gold, both are darkish, but this one far lighter, more graphite-y, bluish gray. So there you go. All right. This has been Papier Plume's Cloud Gate. Thank you very much for watching. Tell Papier Plume that you saw this here and that, you're like, hey, I saw this on Mike's YouTube channel, because you should always pass that kind of thing along when you get something that somebody has suggested or shown you. It helps us out, especially us smaller streamers, or smaller YouTubers. So make sure that you say hi to Papier Plume if you're in Chicago and say, hey, I watch Mike's YouTube channel. I don't know, couldn't hurt. Probably won't get you anything, but yeah, it's always nice to do. So there you go. Thank you very much. Tell a friend. Find your bottle. 30 mils, $15 at the Chicago Pin Show, or on the online store when they get back home if there's any left, and there probably will be. They usually make a good amount of this stuff. So there you have it. I'll see y'all in another video. Peace out.